Last June, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. One of the first things that came into my mind after the diagnosis was my son, Reese. Just how was it going to affect his life more than I was worried about how it was going to affect my life. At the time, he was 8 years old, and like most 8-year-olds, he really didn't know what cancer was and didn't really understand it. But what he did understand was when we told him that Mommy was probably going to lose her hair because she was going to have chemotherapy for her cancer. And he did understand that. That upset him. At the time, I had heard some about cold caps, which is a process of basically freezing your scalp to decrease the blood flow so that you can keep your hair while you're going through chemotherapy. We had looked into it. It was pretty expensive, but the look on Reese's face and the fact that he got upset made me really want to try it. Luckily, a friend told me about the Martha's Song, which is part of the NorthCrest Foundation. I had not heard of Martha's Song before, but I called the NorthCrest Foundation to ask if I would qualify for a Martha's Song grant. I was able to apply for both types of cancer and did receive grants, which was a huge help for the financial burden that we had. I think Martha's Song is great. It's a really good thing because, as you can see, the cold caps did work. It was a huge help. It maintained the sense of normalcy for my child, and it made me have a more positive outlook on everything. I feel like by having my hair and not looking sick made me not feel as sick. So it was a huge help to me.
Back in July of this year, I woke up and was having some heavy vaginal bleeding and thought that it was just regular menstrual bleeding, but it was heavier than normal. As the day grew older, I began to feel that it wasn't normal to the point to where it started to affect the way I felt. Whenever I stood up to go call my husband, I thought I was going to pass out. The excessive bleeding was really, really bad. I called NorthCrest. This was at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and asked if they could see me because it was getting to the point to where it was scaring me. That day, traffic coming out of Nashville was worse than normal, and I got stuck in traffic. And by the time that I made it to the Center for Women's Health, not only was I late, but there were no providers left in the office. To find out that I was gonna have to go home in the state that I was in was terrifying, and I was desperate. More than anything, I was embarrassed. The excessive bleeding had caught up with me, and it was not a good sight. And from out of nowhere, it had to have been a God-sent thing. A nurse, Janice, appeared in the front lobby, and she could see the desperation and the fear and the anxiety on my face. She just told me to come back there, and she told me to get cleaned up and that she was going to call over to the hospital and see if there was anybody that could come and see me. She came back in and she said, Dr. Dowell has just finished a long day in surgery and she's going to come back and see you. Dr. Dowell was nothing short of absolutely amazing. And I just felt so relieved to know that somebody was going to care for me in this time of desperation. I appreciate NorthCrest Medical Center and the high quality care that I received and for them being there for me in my time of need.
My mother is Everett Catherine Yates, and she was born in 1927 in Southside, Tennessee, which is up around Clarksville. Her father was a Methodist minister, and they moved around quite a bit. From an early age, they lived in Springfield, and my grandfather died when she was 11, and they stayed here. So she's been in Springfield since she was 11 years old. And this is her home, and she took care of her mother through bad health over at Jesse Hillman Jones Hospital, and I remember that when I was a little girl, that we were in and out of the hospital with my grandmother. And so it's kind of a neat thing that as my mom has health issues towards the end of her life, that I'm helping take care of her at NorthCrest. It just kind of completes the circle of her taking care of her mom at the local hospital and me taking care of her at the local hospital. And it's just such a comfort to know when she has a medical need, we don't have to go to Nashville. We don't have to go anywhere other than right here and know that she's getting excellent care and loving attention. NorthCrest is large enough that it has everything that she needs, but it's small enough that we know a lot of the people and we don't feel like we're just a room number. I feel like she's actually someone that they care about.
We were a little nervous. Abby is our first. We were prepared and NorthCrest helped prepare us and we had a great experience.
I personally have no idea what I'm doing. I can say NorthCrest had me well prepared for that day. That gave me a little bit more comfort through the process so I could enjoy the birth instead of just trying to figure out what would be next.
We chose NorthCrest because it allowed us to be in our community. They allowed us to do everything we wanted to do and then some. Not only that, but they prayed over us before we gave birth. They supported us and they wanted to make sure that the experience we wanted to have, we truly had. And I can't say enough good things about our experience.
Yeah, and I would say too, it was probably a more personal experience you'd get at a bigger hospital in Nashville. You know, it's a lot more one-on-one time. You're not just a number. I mean, you're a family, you're in the community. These are a lot of people you know, so they take the time to invest a little bit more.
Thank you, NorthCrest, for giving us wonderful care, love, and support.
September 30th, we got a call in the middle of the grocery store from my mother. Told her she couldn't breathe, couldn't really move, and was scared. So thankfully, my wife told her to call 911. She quickly got to NorthCrest. They rushed her right back to a room where it took little time for them to get her hooked up to the machines that she needed for them to realize that she was suffering a massive heart attack. About that time, I kind of arrived to the hospital. I was quickly brought up to speed kind of how serious things had gotten and what had really happened. During that conversation, her heart stopped again. Dr. Lapolis came and got me, kind of explained again the severity of the situation. It was a short time after that conversation, her heart stopped again. He immediately came to the waiting area, let us know that he was doing all that he could and that he would do all that he could. Dr. Lapolis was much like you know, your father, your uncle, I mean, hugging you, telling you it's okay, this is what we're doing, it's gonna be fine. Unfortunately, they did all they could at that point. They got her stable enough, she was gonna have to be life-flighted, so they life-flighted her to St. Thomas. My mother did pass away 7 days later, but I'm thankful for NorthCrest and the times they've given me. Those 7 days, I got to tell her that I loved her and that how much she meant to me, and that I was proud of her, proud of the way that she had raised me, and I look at it as a blessing that NorthCrest had given me for that time that I got to spend with her.